What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success. I have Jason Hottle with us today. He is the broker owner of Modern Ohio Realty. And Jason, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. And thank you for being flexible with your schedule with recording this podcast with us.
No problem at all. I'm happy to be here.
No, I love it because this platform gives me a lot of opportunity to interview and speak with top agents and in our market. And I know we spoke a little bit beforehand and a couple weeks ago just about what this is. And I always start with the beginning. Jason, growing up, what was life like for you in middle school, high school?
It's always funny to go that far back in the discussion, but although I am a very urban dwelling person today, I actually grew up on a dairy farm in the country. And
Oh, wow.
my parents, my father was a first generation farmer, which, if you know anything about farming, that makes it rough. And we moved quite a bit, so I had different schools and different places and people around me. And it wasn't until I was in the fourth grade that my parents actually purchased and settled into one place. So spent the rest of my growing up in that area, and pretty typical farm life, pretty, like, if you read if you write the story, it seems kind of storybook. Your parents are home all the time, and you do your chores and you live your life. And I wasn't quite satisfied with just being on the farm, so I had my first job when I was 15. My grandfather used to drive me to this job. I would go after school and work for this company, and my grandfather would pick me up in the evening and take me back home. But I always had extra jobs and extra things on the side, even at that young age.
Was that to avoid working on the farm that you had all the extra side jobs, or?
Not necessarily to avoid being on the farm, but when you're a farm kid in the country, sometimes you want to have a nice car and some nice clothes, and it takes a job outside of the farm to earn those things when you're a young kid in the
Sure,
80s.
sure. And was that all here in Ohio or different parts of the country?
All in Ohio. We
Okay.
lived several places between all the way down on the Ohio River, all the way up into near Medina County, but
Okay.
most of my life was in Holmes County. So classic country, all the
Yeah.
cheese places, and near the Mohican canoeing and kayaking and all those things. That's where I grew up. So it was a pretty good place to grow up.
No, that's awesome. Going through school and stuff, did you have any hobbies, play sports? Kind of what were you into at that point?
I did not play sport. Well, the only competitive sport I ever did was I was on the ski team, and so I placed very poorly in one event. So no, I looked like a football or a basketball player, but I was not. So
Okay.
I was more of a band and theater kid.
No, that's awesome.
All good.
What any instruments that you focused on?
I played the saxophone from I don't know, how old are you when you get your first instrument? Is that fifth or sixth grade? I don't know.
Yeah.
All the way up into high school, and then I played the mellophone in the marching band the last year or two.
I'm not musically gifted, but my parents always had us do band, and we at least had to do 1 year of marching band. And I wish, looking back at it now, I wish that I took it a little bit more serious, because I think people that can play music is so awesome. You know, like that one thing that you wish you could do. I think music or singing would be that one thing that I wish I could actually be good at. But I played the trumpet, so I think I'd go back and actually take it a little bit more serious if I could.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I did the mellophone was it's basically like a marching French horn, I guess. But
Yeah,
I played reeds, with the saxophone as I was growing up, and I felt like I needed to be more accomplished and learn how to play a horn as well. So,
yeah.
but that was fun. It was
No,
fun.
that's awesome. That's awesome. After high school, did you end up going to college, or what was kind of your next steps?
I did. I was accepted into the architecture program at the University of Cincinnati, and I was in that program for 2.5 years, doing very well. I got married at the end of my sophomore year, and halfway through the next year, we were going to have a family. So at UC, the architecture program is a 6-year program where you do a co-op job every other quarter, or I guess they were quarters. Yeah, it was 4 quarters. Pretty intense program. And I transferred to school in Cleveland and into a business program that was a little easier to take care of my responsibilities. But
Sure.
I always say that, give me another 10 or 15 years, I'll retire and go back and be an architect somewhere.
Was that kind of your first passion?
It was my first passion. It was.
What drew you to architect to becoming an architect?
Um, I think the combination of science and math and design all coming together. There's something about the precision and just the history. All of those things have been fascinating to me my entire life.
Yeah, no, I mean that's awesome. I don't know if this has influenced you or not in any way, but typically, the old farmhouses, I wonder if that had any influence on some of that.
I think it's the opposite. I think it was the desire in a more modern space, truthfully.
No, that's funny. It's my parents, we always bought older homes and like fixed them up, and that was kind of like that seed for me. And I didn't know I really wanted to get into real estate until I got into really upon graduating and seeing what my career choices were at that point. But really that idea of fixing up houses and doing all that made me dive into it a little bit more, having that passion. So you end up going to Cincinnati, get married, want to start a family, end up going to Cleveland, and the focus at that point was more business, right?
So I transferred. I did a year at Baldwin Wallace in their business
Okay.
program, and at the same time, I also was working full. I got my first full-time regular job during the day, and so I worked for National City Bank, which is now part of PNC. But
Yep.
I was a post-closing home equity loan auditor. It
Okay.
was a really terrible job, really terrible job. But on that job, I was working full time, going to school full time. I had a couple part time jobs too. It was expensive to have a family, and at the ripe age of 21, I had a baby daughter, and I bought my first house, and that was kind of it was interesting because the loan officer had a similar background, I guess, to me, kind of rural farm, whatever. And he looked at our finances, and this is still shocking to most people because I'm old, but my salary at National City Bank was $16,500 per year. And
Wow.
on that salary, I was able to buy a $50,000 house a long, long time ago. But he looked at me and he was like, "You should be doing something different. This is not enough money." And he encouraged me to pursue other things. And it was a little bit complicated because I was up for a promotion. I got a nice big raise, and I spent the rest of that summer at the bank, and then I went and worked for him. I went and got my first job as a loan officer for a little regional mortgage company. It was okay. We made enough money to live. It wasn't a great time to do that, and it was also I was still figuring out life and still trying to go to school and still trying to do all these things. And
did you know the loan officer before that, or was it just through that loan process, built that kind of connection, and he was able to kind of see some of that
through that whole process? Yeah.
No, that's awesome. It's so wild how sometimes, life events, just twist us and turn us and lead us down the path, and so how long?
To be clear, I didn't even tell the rest of the story. I didn't even get my loan through that guy. Like, I ended up getting a loan through a local bank that had a first-time buyer program. It's just a weird story, but yeah.
So how long were you in the loan space then?
You fast forward. I did that for a couple of years, and fast forward, I got divorced. I moved to Columbus. Tried a couple different things in the housing world, and in 1998, I started with Chase. So Chase had a lot of local people to Columbus will know of Home Loan Direct and some of the origination spaces that Chase did. I worked there as a loan officer and then as a supervisor. While there, I finished my undergraduate and went to grad school, became a manager, and that kind of took my career in a completely different path. By that point, it was too late to go back to architecture school because you have a life and you're making an income, and
sure.
Your employer is paying for your education, so that's always a good thing. And then that took me in 2004. I was recruited from this unknown company that wouldn't tell me their name, but it was intriguing to me. And so I talked to them, and I thought it was a scam, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And ultimately, I interviewed with them, and they told me they wanted to interview me in person. And they asked if I accepted this role, if I would want to live on the East or the West Coast. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then they told me who they were, and I accepted the interview. I flew to Washington, D.C., interviewed, and in 2004, I picked up and moved my family to Washington, D.C., and I basically did a similar thing that I did at Chase, but I did it at E-Trade. And so I was the East Coast sales manager for their mortgage company.
Okay.
When I came on board, they had a couple little home equity sales teams on the East Coast, and they had the rest of their originations on the West Coast, and they really wanted to balance it out. So I built a whole, from 2004 to 2007, I built out a whole sales team, loan officers in all of their financial offices up and down the East Coast, call centers for home equity, call centers for first mortgage. It was going great. And then 2007.
And is this the E-Trade that
E-Trade Finance? Yep.
Okay.
Trading.
I didn't even know they did the lending side.
So in the early aughts, they purchased I can't remember the name of it. They purchased an online mortgage company out of California, and it was under E-Trade Bank. So E-Trade Financial was started in California. Now, obviously headquartered. Well, now it's owned by someone else, but was headquartered in New York at the time. E-Trade Bank was a Virginia bank, so our offices were in Arlington, Virginia, and We originated nationwide. We had a really, really amazing product. Most of our clients were E-Trade financial
Sure.
holders, so it was unusually high credit quality and assets, and we had some really good products, and we originated good stuff. With the in 2007, we closed our home equity division. We had in-house underwriting, processing. We owned a title company in Pennsylvania. It was a whole comprehensive thing. In 2007, we got out of the home equity business. In 2008, during the crash of the world, and E-Trade took it hard, not because of the loans we originated, but because of the assets they purchased during that time. We shut down the entire mortgage company. So I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to stay on and help with some of the loss mitigation, some of the portfolio management. I basically went into servicing, oversight, credit risk at that time, and I did that for a few years. And that was during the time that the Financial Stability Act programs were on the struggle bus, and they were hiring a new group of people to come in and revamp those programs. And they gave me a great opportunity. And so I went and worked for the U.S. Treasury for a few years.
Oh, wow.
And in 2012, I was recruited back to Chase to run their Treasury reporting group, which was basically the opposite side of what I was doing for the government. So it was a great opportunity. It was a really interesting transition from, bank operations to sales to mortgage operations, credit risk, policy, and then regulatory work. And so if you map it out, it's like the right kind of career progression that you're supposed to look for into in your life, I guess. So I did that. I moved back to Columbus after 8 years in DC, and my office, most of my staff was in Dallas, so I commuted back and forth to Dallas from Columbus. But from 2004 until 2015, I did a lot of travel because we had at E-Trade, at the Treasury, and at Chase, my roles always included people in lots of different places. So
did you
go ahead?
I was just gonna say, did you enjoy the travel? I always told myself I would probably enjoy a job where there's travel, but everyone I talk to says it gets boring pretty quick.
I mean, it's not like you're really enjoying yourself. You kind of, I put it this way. I loved my jobs. Everything I did felt like it was the right move. It felt like it was career progression. I felt like I was on the right track. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate to make a good deal of money, have lots of vacation time. I literally got on an airplane almost every Monday morning. Wow. And it wasn't like the consulting gigs where you go for a couple of days and come back. It was like leaving early on Monday morning and coming home late on Friday night. And I didn't mind it. It was fine. I thought it was great. It was my life, and I'd been doing it for such a long time that it was ordinary. It wasn't until 2015 when things were stabilizing, things were changing. I was kind of on a 5-year track in my role to rebuild this portion of the company. And it ended after 3 years because they reorganized, as large financial institutions often do. And so I found myself with a pretty generous severance package because I had been at Chase combined over 10 years, and I was fairly high level position. And I found myself in a weird place because I was like, for the first time ever, I was not employed. I had never in my life not been employed.
Yeah.
And I had enough savings. I always, for like, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years, I had been saving in I called it my South America fund, kind of jokingly, but it was like, if I ever get laid off, I'm just going to go travel the world.
Yeah.
And when I got laid off, it took me very little time to realize that I wasn't cut out for that kind of doing nothing life. I was very, very bored. But I also realized that I didn't want to, whatever I did, I didn't want to get on an airplane every morning. I realized that my life had looked very different, with that time to reflect on what I wanted my life to look like and what kind of relationships I had. I'd moved back to Columbus. I'd been back in Columbus 3 years, and I barely knew my neighbors.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in my community. I wasn't volunteering anywhere. I was literally just working. And 2015 changed all that. So
Yeah. What lead me up to getting your real estate license? What made you, get your real estate license? Kind of lead me up to that point.
So with the work I did with so many different financial institutions, particularly with the U.S. Treasury and servicing with E-Trade, I literally had friends all around the country. The job market wasn't super great at that moment, but it was fine. I could have easily landed something if I wanted to get on an airplane.
Sure.
I could have easily landed something if I wanted to move again. There were some things in Columbus, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my daughter had just graduated from college, and I had purchased a house. She was living in one of my houses. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go live in that house and figure some things out. And that's when I got bored. But long story short, I bought a house I was like, I'll just fix up an old house. This will be something fun to do. Let me just renovate a house. And so I bought a house from a sheriff's auction here in Columbus. My friends thought I was crazy. We have videos of us like axing down the door to go in and see any bodies, what was going on. So I bought that house, and I was like, this could be fun to fix it up. I'm like, I don't really want to go back to work yet. I don't want to go back to a regular job. If I could get I've been around. I mean, at this point, I was literally like 23 years in the real estate. I mean, in housing.
Sure.
Not selling real estate, but I'm like, let me get a real estate license. That's pretty easy. And let's see if I can make something work of it. So I did. I had my license with a big box broker. It was fine. I only sold 16 houses my first year, and I got my license in the end of 2015.
Okay.
I had this like glorified, I'll work on my house 3 days a week. I'll prospect a day a week. If I sell a few houses, it'll be fine. I sold 16 houses in 2016, which isn't very
That's
many.
awesome.
It's not bad for the first year.
No, not at all.
It wasn't super, super successful, but I knew that I loved it. I knew that it was something I could do where I wasn't just managing people, or I wasn't just making a decision in a room somewhere, where I could actually be involved. The other thing I did, I volunteered for everything. Like I became the president of my civic association. I was volunteering with Columbus Landmarks Foundation. I was just like everything and anything, every community organization. I just spent all my time going to, and doing those kinds of things. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It gave me marketing material inadvertently. It gave me exposure to people. It built my network. And by the end of that first year, I had decided that I wanted to own my own company. I didn't really like working for a big box broker. Nothing wrong with them, but after coming out of like these big corporate organizations, I really wanted to get back to like something that was just me. And at the time, I wanted the Columbus Idea Foundry was just opening their co-working spots and their private offices on the second floor in 2017, and I wanted to have a team office down here, and it really didn't fit the business model that I was in, and that wasn't really viable.
Yeah.
And so I found a different broker who would. I interviewed several. I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my business plan. I have to have 24 months of sales history to get a broker's license. And that's going to be 2017. And then in 2018, I'm going to start my own company.
Yeah.
And they all looked at me like, you've sold 16 houses and you're going to do what? Like, that's the plan. That's the plan. And
I'm just curious, what made you, because like I said in the beginning, like I believe that there's not one path to success in this business, right? Like I got into the business and I cut my teeth on calling internet leads and working with investors and selling off REOs. That was how I got started. What made you decide, maybe this wasn't conscious, but what made you say, hey, I'm going to just start volunteering for everything? And was that part of the game plan to build your real estate business?
It was part of the game plan to build my life. It was to build my life back to what I wanted it to be. That's the primary reason for doing those things. I was spending time with my partner, spending time with my friends. It was stuff that I hadn't been doing for a long time. But the reality is, real estate is a relationship-based business. People do business with people they understand and know and relate to. And, if you try to fabricate, there's lots of strategies. You can buy leads. I've purchased leads. That's been successful. There's different things you can do to generate business. But I think ultimately, if you want to build a brand, and if you want to build something that doesn't feel like work, you need to have fun doing it. And so if I'm going to use Columbus Landmarks Foundation. I'll just put a plug out there. I am on the board now. I've been volunteering there since 2015. And I'm going to use that as an example.
Yeah.
They used to have Monday night art walks and landmark talks. Every single Monday night, we would go on a walk and we would meet people and we would do things. The next year, we did the same thing, and we were members. We would go to events and whatnot. I think it was by the end of the second year, I was actually leading some of those talks, which was kind of interesting. I was asked if I was interested in participating in committees or something, and I was like, no, not yet. I don't know. I'm doing too many things. And then I got on the Preservation Services Committee, where we helped identify architectural resources for folks who have. We didn't do the plans and things like that, but we would help connect them with contractors and people who wanted to do historically relevant renovations. For example, what is my porch is missing on my old house? What would have been there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some people who are in historic districts have to, but some people who are not want to, and they don't know where to start. So this sounds completely unrelated, but I love that stuff, right? I love architecture. I love the design of it. I love the history of it. I love the context of the places that are made within our cities. And so I legitimately have fun doing that kind of stuff. And so if I'm having fun, these people that I'm volunteering with see that I'm passionate about the same things they're passionate about. We become friends. When there's that saying, like, don't do business with friends. If you do business well and you're a professional, you have no reason not to do business with your friends, because they can trust you. You can be their advocate, and it's going to go great. If you're not great at what you do, then don't do business. You're going to ruin your friendships.
I love it, because that's what I tell agents about. Yeah, you can door knock. Yeah, you can do direct mail. Yes, you can do internet leads. Yes, you can do networking events. Yes, you can do seminars. It doesn't matter to me. I think the one thing that matters is if you show up and you're consistent with it. And I find that people are more consistent when they pick something or a couple things that they enjoy doing, like what you just said. You enjoyed those things. And that works for someone like you. And it may not work for someone like me, and it may not work for the next agent. But if you find or can turn some of your passions and your hobbies and some of those things and combined real estate with it, because I believe that there's a lot of ways we can introduce real estate into some of these things. Like I don't have to be puking real estate on everyone every single day. They're gonna, especially with technology and social media, they're gonna see what I'm doing, right? But like you said, people do business with people that they understand, that they know, like, and trust. And if that one thing is the connector to you and this other community of people where you're in alignment around this hobby or passion or whatever it is, then it's just all coming down to, do they see you as the trusted advisor when it comes to real estate?
And I would never walk into a room and tell people I was a realtor or a broker,
Right.
or any. I don't wear the big realtor pin to go volunteer. I think people get put off by the hard sell.
Yeah.
If people like you, they're going to figure out who you are and what you do. It's going to come up in conversation. It's casual. To your point, we're in a land of technology where everyone uses those technology resources for a big part of anything they do in their life.
Yeah.
But when they realize they need a partner and they see you happy and enjoying yourself in whatever it is, it works out. All of the agents in my company have something. I've said we have to give back. We have to. I used to volunteer for lots and lots of things, and now every year I make a list. Like, these are the 3 things I'm going to give money to, that I'm going to give time to, that I'm going to really focus on. So my contribution is a little more substantial and meaningful. And almost all of my agents have a charity or a nonprofit or an organization that they spend time and money promoting. I just think it's important to be thoughtful about that and not do it because, like, I want people to know that we give money to things. That's
right.
Not great. It's because we are fortunate to have this career, and we are fortunate to be a part of a community, and it is part of our whole selves. And I love that.
No, I mean, that's awesome. I want to kind of go back to getting your license and, making that decision. Did you have a lot of supporters, a lot of doubters? Again, you're going from this career, and this trajectory where, salary, steady job, all of those things, to now 100% unknown, and commission based. Supporters, doubters, kind of where do people land with you?
My friends thought I was crazy. Like, my friends thought, why aren't you have an MBA, you have all of this experience, why don't you go get a regular job? Well, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. I think people trusted that I would figure it out. I had a few friends who, my true friends, my close, tight friends, were like, you can be successful at anything if you put your mind to it. Like,
Sure.
You've got this, right? I think it was the people on the fringe who were like, how are you going to pay your bills?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, if you aren't, I mean, this is a real estate podcast for people who are in real estate. This is not a surprise. You really have to have a little bit of a savings or a cushion or a partner or a plan to pay those bills, because you don't make any money in your first year or two of real estate. Not if you're doing ethical things and building a real brand for yourself and a real career. It just takes time. You can be really good at what you do. I got my license the end of November. Is that right? In 2015. My first sale I did 16 in sales in 2016, but the first one wasn't until the first closing wasn't until April. It took a couple months to figure out my marketing and my branding, and to, figure out how to write a contract. And
right.
then get some buyers looking, and it took some time.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think that's what a lot of people miss. What's the right word? They misjudge. I always tell people, like, this isn't the get rich quick. Like, it's not the social media success. It's a grind, and you have to decide what sacrifices you're willing to make to get there. And sometimes that's not hanging out, with your friends. Sometimes that's working during holidays, and your family's upset. And sometimes it's, your spouse or significant other, coming home at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and then still having to write 2 offers because, your 2 clients that night wanted to write, write offers. And, you're spot on, but if you do it the right way and you build it, it can be such an amazing business to be a part of.
I wholeheartedly agree. So
so in 2018, is that when you officially opened your brokerage? Followed
Yes.
the plan?
So 2016, I was with one brand. 2017, I was with another brand who was like, yeah, here's an amount, a flat amount, and we'll hold your license and you do your thing.
Sure.
In 2018, I did a lot, in 2017, I did quite a bit more business. Won some pretty good awards and things with that brand. And in December, exactly 24 months after getting my real estate license, I passed the brokerage license, and I went to my broker and I'm like, well, I did it. And launching on, I'd picked a date. I forget what the date was. And his mouth kind of dropped open like, we really want to keep you here. But we're still in communication today. He's a good guy. But even though, it was, I was upfront, I was honest. Like, there's no need not to, like, you don't need to play games. Just have your business, have your plan, and follow through. So he was supportive of that. And in January of 2018, my one team member and I, the two of us, I launched the company, and we've moved offices a couple of times because we've grown out of it. We've stayed in Franklinton. Last April, so almost a year ago, I guess, we moved back into the Idea Foundry. It's now part of the Gravity Project.
Yep.
And we started in a little tiny office that wasn't really suitable enough for 2 people. And now we have a large office that fits the whole company, which is nice.
No, that's awesome. Jason, I want to kind of move into the future and start kind of seeing, just the vision of where you want to kind of take things, with your company and with your agents. What's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 12 months?
12 months. I'm really, in the last couple of months, the end of last year and this year, we started really looking at the tools we were using. We just turned 5, so we're a 5-year-old company now, and we're still using some of the same systems and tools and things that we were using. So we did a full audit of those things and how and where they're working, where they're not, where there are better alternatives, and just finished up kind of rolling out some new things. Everyone's learning to use them. It seems pretty effective. And I guess the rest of this year, my objective is really to look at our client-facing things, back to that whole technology and self-driven. We're finding that more and more people appreciate kind of those self-directed resources. So we're brainstorming all kinds of ideas, some process videos and communication pieces that kind of tie in with the stuff that we already use. So I would say that's probably completing that revamp of kind of our standard things to make not only for myself and my clients, but for all the agents, kind of a more seamless. We're staying on top of everything that is out there and available to us.
No, I love it. Curious, how often do you think, I think this is a great question for team leads, and broker owners like yourself. How often would you suggest an agent actually audits, their system and their business?
I mean, at least annually. We've changed a few things. We've changed a few things over the CRMs and some stuff
Sure.
over time. If you're using tools that are worthwhile, they're probably not free, right? Because you want paid for your job, so do the companies providing the best tools. And since it's not free, we tend to run into annual. My company started in January. We have a lot of subscriptions and insurance policies and things that are due, and so when we're writing those big checks once a year, that's usually when we kind of look at all those expenses and make sure they're the right things, and not just the tools, but do you have the right insurance policy? Do you, as a brokerage, we have insurance policies that cover us and our agents, but the agents also need to have their own, make sure they're protected and covered.
Yeah.
I think a good brokerage will generally provide the tools for the agent, but it really, all of the all-encompassing kind of package of things they need to.
Sure. Jason, what's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm old. I am. I would like to retire in the next 10 to 15 years, and so for me, the growth of the company has been really small. We don't recruit. You'll never receive an automated telemarketing style message from my company asking if you're happy with your brokerage. Everyone who's come to work here has come through relationships and friendships, or doing business together and really wanting to work together. Brokers talk a lot about the retention rates. I've only had 2 people leave. One got their license during COVID, never sold a house, decided it wasn't the right career and stayed with their daytime job. The other one had personal family reasons and left the area and decided that, I can't do anything about that.
Sure.
The other agents have all stayed. I think we've built really a good family here, a good group. And probably in the next 5 years, I need to expand that to meet my retirement goals and to do the things I want to do. I need to grow the company a little bit in the next 5 years.
What do you think that it's going to take in order for you to accomplish that? I mean, you have the background with growing, the sales team all up and down the East Coast.
The difference is I don't want to be a giant company. I really don't. I would never want to own a company that has 17 layers of management and thousands of people. The beauty of this is I had a good career most of my professional life, and so I get to do what I want, and I want to work closely with the people I work with, and so we're slow and methodical with our growth.
No, I think that's awesome. What's a legacy goal for you? What's the goal that you want to hit when you're no longer here?
A legacy goal. That's interesting. I don't know that I work or live in a way to create a legacy for myself. But I would say that I definitely work and live in a way to help others have their lives be better. People who own small businesses in many cases like this could probably have a small team or be an individual producer and have an easier life and make the similar money or more. But part of what I do is I love helping other people. And so on the professional side, I would say I would hope that the success of the agents that I'm working with today will always remember that I helped them and that I do help them. On the family side, my daughter just announced this, so I guess I can talk about it too. But I'm going to get my second grandchild this summer.
Oh, nice.
So since my first grandchild started kindergarten last fall, I spend one morning a week going over and having breakfast with her and getting her ready and walking her to school, and it's really, really quite enjoyable.
That's
It's
awesome.
the best. I feel like I'm coming into the best part of my life because I have little to no responsibility for grandchildren, but all the joy that they bring in your life. So yeah, I guess I'm looking forward to having my second grandchild and spending more time with them. And so from a legacy standpoint, just helping encourage them to have fulfilling lives.
That's awesome. I think, that's one of the pieces, the flexibility of our business that a lot of agents forget about, and I did, in the early, I'm getting better at it, but, at the beginning of my career, it was just work, 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 work. And, like being able to say, hey, yes, I want to go over and help my grandchild and get ready for school and have breakfast, like that's part of this business, the beauty of this business. And it doesn't always have to be chasing, the next dollar or the highest dollar that you can make. Like, yes, you can do that if you want, if that's your goal, but also there's that flexibility piece to where we don't have to work with a client or talk to a client at 9 a.m. if we don't want to, so it's awesome that, you're designing, your life, that way, and hearing, having, that ability and the success with it in this business as well. Jason, one final question for you. If you could give the audience one piece of advice that, either that you give to agents or that you wish you had, when you got into this business, or even opening, your own brokerage, what would that be?
To build their own brand. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're with. It doesn't matter if you're with the most prestigious brokerage in the world or a discount broker or something in between. Build your brand. Even if you're on a team, you can still work on building your own individual brand for yourself and your clients. And if you surround yourself with people who want you to see you succeed, there's a lot of opportunity in this business for less than ethical behavior. There's a lot of people working in this business very hard for others. And I think if you want to be successful, you have to build your own brand and make it something that you're proud of.
No, that's awesome. Jason, thanks so much for joining me today and talking about your journey, to the business and in the business and where you want to get to next. For those that are listening in, if they, just want to connect with you, whether it's real estate agent, someone that's looking to buy or someone that's looking to sell, that resonated with you and your story, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Probably my link app, which is modhottle.com, modhottle.com. Or you could reach me on my cell, text, voice, whatever, 614-769-7793.
Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And if I can ever do anything for you, please let me know.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks so much.